Women of the Supreme Court, written by Cynthia Kennedy Hensel. Men and women are equal. For Ruth Bader Ginsburg, 1971 was an important year. She was a lawyer for a case going to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court protects our rights by deciding whether laws follow the guidelines created by the U.S. Constitution. In Ruth's case, the court would decide if women were equal to men under the law. This important case was called Reed v. Reed. Word-wise. Cases are named for the two opposing sides. The V stands for versus, which means against. The whole word versus is spoken when reading the name of the case. In the case of Reed versus Reed, a husband and wife went to court against each other. That's why, in this case, both opponents have the same name. At that time, few women were let into law schools. Because Ruth had a young daughter, she had lost a chance to be a law clerk on the Supreme Court. At a new job, her pay was reduced because she was pregnant. Yet men did not lose jobs or pay if they had children. Ruth believed that women and men should be treated equally in school, at work, and under the law. In Reed v. Reed, Ruth and others talked about the 14th Amendment. That amendment was added to the Constitution in 1868 to protect the rights of former slaves after the U.S. Civil War. At that time, few people cared about the rights of women. Ruth argued in Reed v. Reed that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution also protected women from discrimination. Since an Idaho law favored men over women, Ruth argued that the state law was illegal. The Supreme Court agreed with Ruth. For the first time, they decided that the 14th Amendment did indeed protect women's rights. After this decision, other laws that discriminated against women were also fought and also changed. No longer could women be denied education and jobs because they were women. A cowgirl for justice. Since the start of the Supreme Court in 1790, its justices had always been men. 10 years after Reed v. Reed, Sandra Day O'Connor became the court's first female justice. Sandra grew up on a ranch in Arizona. She rode horses and was treated like one of the boys. After going to law school, though, she found that no one would hire a female lawyer. So Sandra opened her own law office. Sandra Day O'Connor. In 1981, the president nominated Sandra for the Supreme Court because she agreed with many of his ideas. But Sandra had a mind of her own. Sandra was one of 9 justices serving on the court. Sometimes 4 justices voted one way and 4 voted the other. Sandra's tie-breaking votes helped protect the rights of women and the right to privacy. Ruth joined Sandra. At times, Sandra was lonely because she was the only woman on the court. She was glad when the president nominated Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the court in 1993. As she had done in Reed v. Reed, Ruth continued to protect the rights of minorities and women. For example, she wrote the court's explanation of why women cannot be denied entrance to any public school. An American Story. Sandra retired in 2006. She hoped a woman would replace her, but a man did instead. President Barack Obama nominated the next female justice, Sonia Sotomayor, in 2009. Sonia's parents came from Puerto Rico. Her father died when she was 9. Her mother worked hard so Sonia could get a good education. Sonia worked hard at school to get scholarships to go to college. After law school, Sonia worked as a lawyer and then a judge. When President Obama nominated Sonia for the Supreme Court, he hoped that a majority of the 100 U.S. senators would confirm or agree to his choice for a justice. When a majority disagrees, the president has to choose someone else. 31 senators voted against Sonia becoming a justice. Because 68 senators voted yes, she became the first Latina and the third woman on the court. A very smart lawyer. In 2010, President Obama nominated Elena Kagan to be the next justice. Elena had been a law clerk for the first African-American justice to serve on the court. In time, she became the top lawyer in the U.S. government for cases brought to the Supreme Court. She was the first woman in that role. Do you know? Congress requires the Supreme Court to have 9 justices. The justices are appointed for life. The only time a president nominates a new justice is after one has retired or died. Some senators said Elena should not be on the court because she had never been a judge. They voted against her. However, many of the 111 people who had served on the Supreme Court before Elena hadn't been judges either. Plus, most senators agreed that Elena knew the law very well. After 63 senators voted yes, she became the 4th female justice in the court's history. The court today. The 4 women of the Supreme Court come from different ethnic groups and backgrounds. They are Catholic, Jewish, and Protestant. 2 have children and 2 do not. Some have worked as teachers, while others have worked as judges. They don't always agree on the law, but they all agree that women, like men, can make wise decisions.